It
Um,
is. Okay.
Julia Palusi here with Brendan Howe on the platforms of Steelers Now. And Brendan, got to see the last practice today before the Steelers head to Jacksonville for their first preseason game. And you got to watch some receivers today. Not a lot of starters getting into the mix, but you got to watch some receivers go to work who didn't get all the love that DK and Calvin Austin did.
Yeah, for sure. That was very evident more after practice than during it. But during it, Roc Taylor, Robert Woods, Roman Wilson, uh, they all had a pretty good practice. Scotty Miller got in there and had a time too. I think he had a few catches, won 7 shots that I'll talk about here. So everyone kind of got their share of receptions today. A new quarterback comes. He didn't get to step in, obviously, in Logan Woodside. He kind of watched as everybody else. The other 3 quarterbacks got their work in. But like I said, at the end of practice, I noticed DK Metcalf is out there. I didn't see him during practice, but afterwards, he's standing at the jugs machine, catching balls, handing them to the operator to shoot out at his teammates. And there's at least like 100 kids just yelling his name and chanting his name. And I always think it's interesting. Like they hear that, like, but you can't go over and sign every autograph, obviously. So I'm not sure if he made his way over there. I wasn't able to kind of pay attention to that. I was waiting for some of the guys to come off to talk to.
Mhm.
Um, but like I said, Roc Taylor, Robert Woods, and Roman Wilson were all
Yeah.
sitting there in the middle of the field, and they kind of went ignored. But during practice, first off, the thing that I noticed was Robert and Rock both had plays where they kind of didn't get what they wanted, and then 2 plays later, or play later, they kind of succeeded. The first one was Rock Taylor had a catch in 7-on-7s, where or no on 2 minute drill where he catches in
Mhm.
the back of the end zone. Can't get both feet down, and he kind of runs into there's like an advertisement board in the back of the end zone. He runs into that. So he comes back, and I walk down the field a little bit, and right in front of me, he catches like a 20-yard ball, back shoulder, sets him up on the 4. They score the next play to kind of end the practice there. Before that, Robert Woods in 7-on-7, he goes deep. Aaron Rodgers throws him the ball. He dives for it, hits off his hands, and Jeff Hathorn from the fan was right next to me. He goes, do you think that Robert really had to die for that? I was like, I don't know. And then 2 plays later, he goes out and Skylar Thompson throws him basically the same route. He dives,
Mhm.
catches it. Roman Wilson runs over, celebrates with him. So you kind of saw that connection there. But yeah, each of those receivers kind of they don't get the shine. Usually today, both DK and Calvin Austin sat out.
Right.
So they really stepped up when they kind of had their chance, and that's kind of what Mike Tomlin asked for.
And Calvin Austin is really setting himself apart as receiver too here for the Steelers. But which one of these guys do you think is going to make the biggest difference come this season?
So Roman Wilson has had a really good week of practice. I wasn't there the previous 2 days, but today I was there. He had a few catches that kind of stood out to me. One was on a play where in team Aaron Rodgers rolls out to his right, and Darnell Washington. There's that whole conversation: should he be tackle? Should he be tight end? He's like guarding Aaron Rodgers against Beanie Bishop. Beanie Bishop runs up. That's a pretty unfair assignment there for Beanie
Yeah.
Bishop. Aaron Rodgers zips the ball on a crosser to Wilson, who's like 15 yards downfield. So he had that. He had another catch during 7-on-7 where he came down with it next to Cole Holcomb. And I wrote that if it was 2008 and like the Ryan Clark hits of 2008, Sean Elliott probably would have like taken his helmet off. But um, we heard Aaron Rodgers talk earlier this week too about he
Mhm.
thinks Roman just needs to kind of get out of his own head. He misses
Yeah.
his whole rookie season. Basically, I think he had like 1 or 2 snaps, but doesn't really get to produce much last year. And he started off slow this whole training camp, but over the past week, he's really stepped up. And being a 3rd round pick, that's one that fans will kind of hope kind of is able to do what they want going forward here.
Well, it sounds like Aaron Rodgers really believes in him, saying yesterday he's so damn talented, and you just don't hear that very often about or at all about Roman Wilson. Did you get to see that confidence today that seems to be building?
I actually got to see. There was a play early on. I'm not sure if it was. I think it was 1-on-ones. where Roman Wilson didn't run the route like Aaron Rodgers wanted, and Aaron Rodgers didn't like dress him down, he didn't yell at him, but he did kind of look at him and gesture like you didn't run the route I wanted. Roman had a good rest of the day, so obviously kind of picked up after that. But it's cool to see Aaron Rodgers kind of hold him to that standard because we've seen him over 21 years now with plenty different receivers. Jordy Nelson comes to mind, Devontae Adams, uh, Randall Cobb. So if Roman Wilson can have a career like any of those guys, I'd say that's a pretty good one.
Yeah, that would be pretty good. So you've been covering training camp for us here, and now we're heading into Jacksonville. That's the next time that we're going to see the Steelers. What do you want to see in terms of development on Saturday for this team?
So talking to both of those guys and Rock and Robert earlier, I thought it was really interesting. Rock is talking about how he wants to go up against Travis Hunter, kind of make a name for himself, and obviously,
Mhm.
with the two-way player that Travis Hunter is, he's going to draw eyes. And if Roc Taylor can make a few big plays against him, then obviously Roc Taylor kind of gains some notoriety there. When I talked to Robert Woods, he's a veteran. I think he's headed in his 12th year. He mentions that what he wants out of Saturday is a win. So with those guys kind of suiting up on Saturday, and kind of the same thing where DK is not playing, Cal isn't playing, so they'll each have their chance. It won't be Rodgers in. Mason Rudolph will be in for a little while, and Skylar Thompson, I'm guessing, will get most of the time there. But if they can kind of go out and put on the field what they did today at practice, then fans will start to get more excited seeing what they're able to contribute, and maybe that talk of the receiver room will start to quiet a little bit.
And yesterday, Alan and I were talking about, Aaron Rodgers seems to have been, um, he seems to be really good to these guys after all that kind of drama that we heard about coming from the Jets and even before that. He seems like the ultimate teammate so far. Now, granted, they haven't lost the game that they were supposed to win. This is training camp,
Yep.
but I'm really curious. After Alan and I talked about this yesterday, what your perspective is on Rodgers and his camaraderie there and his whole open door policy, and if you think it's making a difference.
Yeah, that open door policy is funny you mentioned that because Scotty Miller talked today during media availability before practice. He said that he hasn't taken Rodgers up on that offer yet. You hear a lot of guys talk about kind of building that relationship with him. Another guy that's kind of funny is Beanie Bishop. He can hang his hat on those 2 interceptions that he had against Rodgers last year, but I think he's kind of tired of hearing about that. Is like as crazy as that might sound, you have 2 interceptions against a Hall of Famer in one game, future Hall of Famer in one game. And at this point, he's like, yeah, we don't talk about that anymore. It's kind of just in the past. Like, I thought that was interesting that he just kind of wants to forget about that when that's kind of a career defining moment. But yeah, every guy I've talked to during this training camp, and like you mentioned, it's training camp, there hasn't been really many hardships at this point. No one's had anything negative to say about Aaron Rodgers at all, which is a large change from what you hear, kind of TV, radio, that sort of thing, us sometimes, which I don't think I have yet. So yeah, it seems every one of those guys love him, and we're going to see that the truth of that unfold over the next month or two.
All right, Brendan Howe and Julianne Felucci here on the platforms of Steelers Now. Make sure you like this video and hit subscribe. Thanks for joining us.